Now, what a busy, wonderful morning it is. Thank you, risers. Michelle Brenner's my big sister. Welcome, Denise. We love Michelle around here. Hello there. Michael. I can see Michael.
Good morning.
Good morning, Michael. Professor Michael Naughton with us. How are you, Michael?
Very good today, thank you.
We're just waiting for the rest to join. I think there's Terry. There's no signal for Richard, saying no signal at all. Well, I tell you what, while we're waiting for them to... Good morning, Terry.
Hello, can you hear me? Good morning.
We can hear you, love. This is Sean, my partner in crime. I don't know if you've met before.
Morning, gents.
Professor Michael Naughton. We're waiting for Richard Vobes, but let's crack on so as not to waste any time. Obviously, you've joined us before to talk about the case of Clive Freeman, who we're all of the mind. I mean, obviously, I'm not speaking for you, Sean, but I'm absolutely of the mind. The gentlemen on the screen are of the mind that this is an absolute miscarriage of justice. There's been a lot of developments. There's a working team around dear Clive, who is, well, Clive has cancer and probably not long for this earth. They're working extremely hard. Michael, what can you tell us regarding any updates?
Well, I think Terry and I were talking earlier. I mean, the sad update is that Clive's condition is quite grave at the moment. I mean, his cancer readings, his blood readings are as high as they've ever been. I don't know if that's the extra stress with everything that's going on at the moment. There's an application which is imminent. We wanted to be able to tell you today that the new application has gone in. We've met with Clive a couple of times now when he's been on day release. He doesn't want to take day release from prison. It's something that he is challenged with because every time he takes a day release, he's a step closer to the parole board trying to say to him, well, you're trying to work your way out. And Clive is adamant that he wants to clear his name before they chuck him out of prison.
Right. And let's be clear about that. He was, so what we're talking about is he's been inside now for what, 35 years?
Yeah.
35 years. Was he originally given a minimum sentence of 13 years?
That's correct, yeah.
For a crime that I think most of us believe didn't actually happen. Rest in peace, Alexander Hardy, who died. But it is highly likely that Alexander Hardy died for all manner of reasons to do with his own lifestyle and actually nothing to do with Clive. Thank you for joining us, Richard. Lovely to see you, everybody. Broadcaster Richard Vobes on the screen there. And so they've all come together because they're all fighting and working to free Clive Freeman. And it is really very concerning. Richard, why does this matter?
Well, I think it matters for anybody who's been put in prison when they have not done the crime. I interviewed Sean Parker the other day, who was very candidly telling me about a case which I think would absolutely devastate anybody. It was a sexual assault case, a claim against him, which he says he didn't do. And of course, I take that on face value. I can't possibly know myself because I'm not him, but I'm more than happy to go along with what he says. And if that's the case and you go to prison and your life is changed, I mean, not only do you do the time, but it's when you come out and suddenly everybody is tarnishing you with a brush which is not true. And if you're a high profile person as well, and it gets into the media, like a number of people that I've now since been in touch with, and their whole careers are down the path. Nobody wants to touch you.
But it's not just high profile people. I mean, we get to hear about high profile people, of course. But the thing is that once you have been convicted for a crime that you didn't do, you know, and even if you overturn your conviction, you're always seen through that lens. I have students now who are very, very reluctant to work on alleged wrongful conviction cases because what they're concerned about is their digital fingerprint or footprint. So they're saying, if I work on Clive Freeman's case, for instance, right, and then Clive Freeman turns out not to be innocent, well, that might actually jeopardize my chances of getting a job, or it may harm my future.
Oh, such cowardice.
So they want no association with him. And I say, if you look into the case, it's not that we believe that Clive Freeman is innocent. 9 global experts have said no crime actually happened, right? So it's just simply the Criminal Case Review Commission refusing to accept that this man is innocent and they should overturn his conviction. And what they keep saying to us is that even if he is innocent, it was argued at his trial that the scientist who said that he had done this murder, he was challenged in the trial. So the jury heard that. So we have jury deference in this country. So even if Clive is innocent, there's nothing we can do about it.
Terrible. Absolutely. I mean, it literally could be any of us. Go on, Sean.
Yeah. How do you think like systematic factors or like biases have played into this? Because obviously with the background and the political.
Well, we believe he was a political prisoner in many respects. So that is absolutely possible.
But do you think it plays a more of a role in it because of his political circumstances and it being, you know, alleged framing or...
Sean, it depends on how you think about politics. If you think about politics with a capital P, I mean, Terry can speak to that about the kind of big politics involved in Clive's conviction. But if you think about politics with a small p, I think that the problem with our criminal justice system at the moment is that I mean, I came up with a new genre of miscarriage of justice 20 years ago, 2003. And this was where people were being alleged to have committed murders and convicted for murders when no crime actually happened. And the big cases I was talking about then was Sally Clark and Angela Canning's. These mothers whose children had died in unexplained circumstances.
Right.
Please see a potential murder and then start to build an incriminating case for a potential murder. And then there's no evidence, there's no fingerprints, confessions, CCTV. And then years later, it turns out that there was non-disclosure by the prosecution, right, of congenital problems with these children who died of cot death. But so the politics of law and order in this country are that they want to get convictions, right? And so everything's what they call tunnel vision. So it's all called, you know, it's evidence in rather than facts out in terms of the investigations. And once you start going down this potentially incriminating path, they just can't see anything that points away from that.
Right. We see that over and over again.
It's like the CCRC in Clive's case. You know, it's institutionally set up in a certain way that it's saying, we don't know what to do with a case like Clive Freeman because it's not in our remit, even though this body was set up to help innocent people overturn their convictions.
What an absolute mess. Terry, you obviously know Clive personally, and I think you were inside with him for a period of time, and you actually said to him, I mean, you made something of a sort of promise to him that you'd help him get out, and you work extremely hard on it. You're a great mate, Terry, but how is this impacting you and him personally when you see him on these day release days?
Well, I got released from prison 10 years ago, coming in December, and since I've been released from prison, I've worked tirelessly to secure the overturning of this conviction, which I truly believe in. There are political issues related to this case, but Clive is still at this stage reluctant to expose those issues because of fear to his retribution, to his family still in former Zimbabwe, former Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe. So there are, and once Clive is released and his conviction is overturned and he's released, then he's happy to tell all, if you like. But he can't do that yet for fear of what might happen to his family and friends still in Zimbabwe.
It's a terrible situation, catch-22 really, isn't it? And I mean, so Richard, as a broadcaster, a man of this world, you've obviously, well, you will have seen certain things. Did this case touch you in any particular way? Did it shock you, or are you unsurprised by what has taken place?
I suppose if you'd asked me that a year or so ago,
right.
I probably would have been shocked. But in the revealing of all the things in the way that our world has been set up, and the lies and the lies and the damn lies that continue to be exposed by all sorts of wonderful people like yourself and many others, I'm not at all surprised. I am hurt by this, of course, and it should not happen. And if we lived in a proper and sensible world, of course, Clive even if they carried on with the fact that they thought he was guilty when blatantly, clearly he is not, he should have just been released. Why they have him still, and that is the part of the second part of the miscarriage of justice, really, is the fact that they keep him in, even though he has done the time, as if he had been guilty.
Yeah, but there's a reason for that, isn't there, Michael? It's because he's not prepared to, say I did wrong, and so they then can't put him on that program for release, right?
Yeah, and I think that, I've written quite a lot about this as well, and it's untenable, really, because
of course it is.
You don't seem to be able to see that every single day of every single week, so, convictions are being overturned in the Court of Appeal, right? Every day of every week. And yet once you actually go into prison and you get caught up in that parole system and that probation system and that prison regime, it works on the basis that the court's got it right. And when you point out to them that, this person is legally guilty, but they could also be factually innocent, they don't want to know until that conviction has been overturned. So everything within the system is working on the basis, and there's no allowances made at all for the potential errors that are made, which are evidenced by successful appeals. So there's thousands of successful appeals each year, but the prison system, even a man who's 22 years past the time he could have been released, they still want this man to acknowledge his guilt for something that didn't actually happen.
And our prisons are full of Clives, people who were not prepared to admit that they did a crime that they didn't do. And so they don't stand a chance.
I mean, people would, I wouldn't say full. What I would say is,
a bit of an exaggeration, but there are people, there are enough people, aren't there?
Absolutely. I mean, the little project I run, we're getting emails from people, letters from families, almost every single day of the week, with claims of innocence from people who are in prison. We look into those claims, and many of those claims are plausible. So I would say that there are potentially hundreds of people in prison like Clive for different types of cases. And it depends on which type of crime that they were convicted of. But there's literally hundreds and hundreds of people in prison who shouldn't be in prison. And then if people, aren't bothered about the people who are in prison who are innocent, they should be bothered that if that particular crime that they were convicted for had a victim, right? Clive's doesn't, right? But if they did, the real perpetrator's at liberty. And they should also be bothered that I did some calculation, it costs hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds a year to keep people in prison who shouldn't be there.
Absolutely. Terry, take us out on a personal note. Obviously,
Well,
you've made us aware that there are certain things that Clive still doesn't want to talk about because he's concerned about his loved ones, which is honourable and decent. But what does Clive want us to know?
Well, he wants you to know that he's an innocent man languishing in prison, 20 years over his tariff, because he will not put his hands up and admit to something he hasn't done. It's interesting to know, I'm sure the viewers will be interested to hear this, is that I went to visit him in prison prior to his day release, what he's got now. And on that visit, when I was signing in and notified the officer that I was visiting, Clive Freeman, the officer said to me, Clive. He said, there isn't a prison officer in this prison what doesn't believe in his innocence. And I feel awful having to keep him here. We truly believe that this man is innocent. Out of all the people who say they're innocent, we all believe that Clive Freeman is innocent. I said, thank you for that, officer. And I went and visited Clive. His family, most of which now have passed. His father, his mother, his wife, his brother, and others have now died without seeing his conviction overturned. He's got grandchildren. I think at 22, I think he's got a grandchild who he's never seen. It's just a terrible situation which needs somebody to stand up and say, we need to correct this. We need to put this one right. Yeah. But they're not. They're cowards.
Yeah.
But Terry, I just want to say this to Terry, that, you say thank you to the prison officer, and I'm sure there's some solace to Clive that everybody believes is innocent. But when you think of a system that's got itself into such a state, a bureaucracy that's got itself into such a state that everyone can say, we all think you're innocent, pal, but
Right.
nobody can do anything about
We're
it.
guarding you day
It's
after
a
day.
human system, right, that we created, right?
Yes.
But
yes.
no one can do anything. And you go, oh,
Yeah.
thanks that you all think I'm innocent. I'll just die in prison.
Yeah, but we did get some light at the conference which you had at Bristol University, and attending that conference was 2 members of the CCRC. After the conference, I left the building, and outside, standing in the rain, was one of those members of the CCRC waiting for me in the rain, and he shook my hand and he said, "Your speech was very good. Get the submission in. I'll take a personal interest in this." So that's what we're doing now. The submission is nearly ready. Once it's submitted, hopefully that guy who said that to me will stand to his word and take a personal interest in it and speak up. Speak up. That's what we need. Somebody with backbone
absolutely.
to speak up.
I'm sorry we have to let you go, gentlemen. I really dislike having to do that at this moment. But please, everybody, subscribe to Richard Vobes. He's on brand new tube now. And we do like Richard round here. He's a lovely fella, and he's highlighting lots of really important injustices. You're doing it, Richard. You are doing it, and it's wonderful to see you doing it. Richard Vobes, everybody, Professor Michael Naughton and Terry Wilcox. And I think we're all joined together in saying free Clive Freeman. Take good care of yourself, everybody. And hello to Aaron, who never lets up on this. God bless that man. Take good care of yourself, gentlemen. Have a good Monday and great week. Take care.